I didn't dump my fiancé. I let a committee vote him out. That sounds dramatic, I know, but if you've ever tried to hold on to a relationship while 5 women with perfect eyebrows conducted weekly performance reviews in a group chat named Brides and Better, you understand. The worst part? I believed them. I believed them when they said I could do better. Now they're all married and I'm here. Ring box like a little coffin on my nightstand, wedding folder emptied, camera roll surgically scrubbed of a man who never raised his voice, never missed a dentist appointment, and never made a good Instagram. The apartment echoes now. I swear you can hear where photos used to hang. The printer tray still has a sheet labeled Seating Chart Draft 8, and sometimes I hold it like a ransom note. I say things out loud, to no one. It wasn't like that, or I didn't mean to, or they were only trying to help. It makes me feel better to cast myself as reasonable and them as enthusiastic, protective. The word manipulative is heavy. I can't lift it yet. We met in a Pilates class that had more talking than core work. Bree sat on my reformer like a throne, ponytail razor sharp, and shouted over the teacher, "Wait, who's engaged here?" Tasha raised her hand, diamond that looked like it paid rent. Leela winced and said, "Long story," and I laughed because my boyfriend, fiancé, Evan, had just bought a little vintage ring we were waiting to resize, and it felt weird to say the word before it fit my finger. Bree pounced. "Group dinner," she said, like she was issuing a prescription. "We collect each other. You in?" They were intoxicating. I don't have a better word. They moved through restaurants like they owned the light. They threaded the hostess stand, the wine list, the waiter's jokes, the bill, without looking at the check. I'd grown up counting coupons with my mom. I didn't know the trick where you don't flinch. When Bree said, "You're one of us," the knot under my ribs loosened. It's embarrassing to write that. I wish I were cool enough to say I didn't care. My insecurity about status is the thing I pretend is a quirk. I like nice things, I say, as if that covers the way my chest tightens when the card reader spins around or how I over-tip to prove I belong. Evan is the opposite. He buys one good coat and wears it for 6 winters, fixes cabinet hinges for fun, brings a Tupperware to work. He asked me not to laugh at his lunch. I said I wasn't, and then later I did. The first night I brought him to meet the girls, he held his own. He brought a Rioja that Brie approved of after a pause, told a story about his niece that made Leela cry laugh, and when the check came, he slipped his card down with mine and said split. I watched the silence bloom like a bruise. Tasha said, "Of course," too quickly. Brie said nothing. Later, in the group chat, a meme. A man cutting a check in half with safety scissors. Caption, "Financial independence is sexy, bestie." I heard it as approval. I wanted to. The group chat is where it lived, the subtle bleed. Our thread bubbles stacked like coins. They named it Brides and Better the day I sent a bathroom selfie with a ring that finally fit. The early messages were harmless. Shower themes, florist screenshots, whether our planner got our vibe. But while I was picking napkin rings, something else was getting built. A secondary lane. A running bit I didn't recognize as a knife until later. It started with a poll. Bree posted a photo Evan had sent me of his new work boots. He does commercial installs. Don't ask me to explain beyond wires. Poll title, Husband Aesthetic. 1, Atlas Shrugged. 2, Starter Husband. 3, We Can Fix Him. Laugh reacts. I laughed too, because if you laugh, it can't hurt you. I typed, "LOL, you monsters," because calling your friends monsters is affectionate, and I didn't want to be the girl who can't take a joke. Evan was at the stove making us pasta, humming some stupid jingle. The chat lit up. A screenshot from his Instagram, him holding our friend's kid at the park, overlaid with babysitting vibes and 3 crying laughing emojis. Then Bree, "You're in fiancé training, not volunteer work." Tasha, "Don't let him mommify you before the wedding." Leela, "He's gonna suggest Costco flowers if you're not careful." I typed, "LOL, stop, he's sweet." And Bree replied, "Sweet is fine for December. You're a June bride." I laughed out loud in that reflexive, brittle way. Evan looked over. He asked, "What's funny?" I said, "A meme." And when he said, "Show me," I clutched the phone like I was protecting him, not them. You can see the shape of it, right? A series of tiny votes. And I kept counting them because they were on my side. The chat became my daily weather. If they approved of something, the sun came out. If they didn't, I carried an umbrella to bed. The problem with letting people program your barometer is they'll eventually test the storm. It happened on a Tuesday, which feels wrong because Tuesdays should be boring. The thread name changed again. Brides and Better and Big Sister Energy. Bree posted, "Emergency Zoom tonight, time sensitive." I was at Evan's. He was fixing the wobbly leg on the coffee table with a little folded piece of cardboard like a magician. I told him I had a work thing, which was technically true, because friendship is work. On Zoom, they came like a panel. "We love you," Bree began, "and we're worried you're settling." Tasha added, "You're dimming your own light." Leela said, "We've all dated the starter husband. It's a rite of passage." I said, "He's my fiancé." And Bree said, "Babe, engagement is a promise, not a prison." Then she shared her screen, a slideshow titled, "What You Asked For versus What You Chose," with side-by-side photos, my Pinterest board, tuxedos on a cliff, linen suits, a champagne tower, and Evan in his work coat, Evan kneeling to tie a kid's shoe, Evan carrying a cooler. I should have ended the call. I watched the whole thing. I'm not proud of this. I came back to the couch and snapped at him about the cardboard shim. "Could you not make everything look patched?" He blinked like I'd thrown water on him. He said, "It's temporary. It's a fix." I said, "That's the point." And he set the table leg down like it might break if he looked at it too hard. The spiral started there. Me hearing temporary as forever. Him hearing fix as not good enough. The chat hummed along, a soundtrack to my doubts. Every time he did something ordinary, they mapped it to a larger theory about smallness. Every time he did something kind, they called it bare minimum in a cardigan. The night before everything cracked, I posted a photo of our save the dates on my story. Within a minute, Bree DM'd, "Proud of you for moving forward while still keeping your eyes open." Tasha sent a voice note that began, "Don't hate me," which is the audio equivalent of lighting a match in a crowded theater. Leela text, "If he was the one, you wouldn't need us this much." I replied to none of it. I went to bed next to a man who slows his heartbeat when I touch his shoulder. I complained to him about printer ink. He kissed my hair and said, "We'll get more." I didn't deserve him. That's not the same as I couldn't have him, but at the time it felt interchangeable. We were at brunch with my mom when the first real fracture finally showed. Evan got up to pay. My phone buzzed. Group chat. A new name added. My girl's mom, observing. And then it disappeared like a glitch. A second later, Bree typed, "He's got Costco energy in a West Elm world." And Tasha sent a boomerang of her diamond in the sun. I fumbled, tried to hide the screen, but my mom had already seen enough to say, "Carefully, are those your friends?" I opened my mouth to defend them, to call it a joke, to say they love me, to say they're just protective. And then my phone rang. Evan. His voice was careful, too careful. He said, "Hey, did you mean to send me this?"
Evan was still at the register when my phone buzzed again. "Did you mean to send me this?" A screenshot preview hovered above his name. The starter husband poll with "We can fix him" winning by a landslide, his boots circled in red. My stomach fell through the floor. Somewhere between my mom seeing the chat name and Bree's last message, my thumb had betrayed me. I'd meant to forward it to the girls with an eye roll. I'd sent it to my fiancé. I walked outside to call him even though I could see him through the cafe window. He answered on the first ring. "Is this how they talk about me?" "It's just," I said, because saying a joke sounded like throwing a blanket over a fire and hoping it smothered. "They love me. They're protective." "That's not protection," he said, not unkindly. "It's a roast, with your life as the entree." Inside, my mom looked at me like she was trying not to take sides in a war she hadn't enlisted for. Evan came back to the table. He didn't make a scene. He put the receipt in his pocket and said, carefully, "I don't want to be in your friend's group chat." "You're not," I said too fast. "You were accidentally adjacent." "He wanted to marry me," he said. Eyes steady on mine. "Not a committee." "Committee is sexist," I snapped, because offense is easier than shame. He took a breath. "Okay, then I want to marry you, and I need to know there's space for me that isn't up for a vote." That night, in Brides and Better, I typed, "He saw the poll." Bree replied instantly, "Good, now you can set boundaries." Lila, "Use the script." They'd sent me a notes app paragraph a month ago. "I love you, and I need you to trust my judgment." If you can't laugh along, don't sabotage what makes me feel supported. Supported. That word again. I wanted to be the kind of woman who didn't need a script to speak. I copied it anyway and read it to Evan on our couch. He listened all the way through, then said, "You're asking me to accept being mocked as proof you're supported? When you say it like that," he said softly, "it's the only way to say it." I slept with the ring on the nightstand, just so it wouldn't press into my hand if I clenched a fist. Many scenes stacked like dominoes. At the next dress fitting, I turned my phone face down and lasted 9 minutes. Bree's text still found me through the do not disturb. Photographer quote, "Please, do not cheap out here." Evan and I had agreed on a budget. The girls called it choosing small. When I sent him the photographer's number, triple what we discussed, he replied, "We can look, but this blows the timeline." I read it as, "You're not worth it." I texted the girls, "He's hesitating." They replied with a fire emoji and a link to a thread about financial red flags. I told myself it was research, not ammunition. Evan started fixing things that weren't broken, tightening cabinet knobs, rehanging a crooked frame, recalking around the sink. He said, "I want everything to feel solid." I found it patronizing. The group chat renamed itself Brides and Better and Big Sister Energy, and someone dropped a PDF guide called Non-Negotiables. Number 1, don't let a man make you smaller to fit his budget. Number 7, archive any feed content that lowers your perceived value. I told myself archive wasn't the same as delete. I made a private album called Wedding Heart and moved us into it, out of sight. It felt like tidying. The album looked like a waiting room. He tried to meet me where I was. He took me to an overpriced tasting menu he couldn't afford. He wore a blazer he hadn't dusted out since a cousin's graduation. He smiled through a sommelier calling the wine playful. On the walk home, he said, "I'll go as far as we can without debt. And I'll go farther if you tell me it matters more than the honeymoon." I heard limits and thought of Bree saying, "Standards are not glass ceilings." I said, "You don't get it." And he said, "Help me." The girls planned a micro bachelorette to warm up the engine for the real one. Daylight rooftop, paper crowns, a custom cake shaped like my ring. They gave speeches that sounded like TED Talks. "You done the roommate boyfriends. Now choose your peer." Tasha chimed in, "We picked each other based on future state. Don't be sentimental about sunk costs." Bree held my hands and said, "You don't have to apologize for wanting your life to look like it fits." The rooftop clapped. I cried because clapping makes any sentence sound true. Afterward, I found Evan building me a shoe rack he'd printed plans for. He was on the floor with wooden slats and a pencil behind his ear. He looked up hopeful. "Two-tier," he said. "If you want 3, I don't need a shoe rack," I said, and hated myself for how it came out. He set the pencil down carefully, like if he did it wrong, it would prove my point. Another scene. Dinner with Bree and her husband, who worked in a world where fees are advisory. He asked Evan what he did. Evan explained commercial runs, wire pulls, inspections. The husband nodded like he was tasting something. "Blue collar hard, respect," he said. And Evan smiled because he is generous. Later in the Uber home, the chat lit up. "We love him as a person, which is why we have to be honest about fit." Fit, as if men came in sizes and I'd picked last season. I know how this makes me sound. I want to stop and tell you all the ways I tried. I made lists. I told the girls to stop with the polls. I told Evan I was sorry for laughing. I told myself I was resisting when I was just hesitating. But a hesitating person is easy to steer. The first intervention arrived as a check-in. Bree asked to loop him in for a couple's dinner so she could see you two together. We went. They asked questions that sounded like HR. Where do you see yourselves in 5 years? What's your childcare plan? Are you comfortable with her taking a year off? He said, "Honestly, we don't know yet. We'll choose when it's real." Bree smiled like a teacher and wrote something in her notes app. On the ride home, my phone dinged. Score 6 of 10. Salvageable with structure. I put the phone in my bag and stared out the window. Evan said, "Am I being graded?" And I said, too quickly, "No." He started noticing everything because he's not dumb. He said, "They're circling you." He said one night, "They're not letting you make a quiet choice." I said, "A quiet choice means settling." He said, "A quiet choice might mean peace." I chose the word boring because it's a knife that leaves the least blood. I wish I could say the next part was a random bad day. It wasn't. It was what happens when you let people narrate for you until your own voice sounds amateur. The chat spun up an audit spreadsheet, literal columns with checkboxes, dress locked, photographer elite, venue list, fiancé aligned. Align became the verb we chewed. When Evan questioned a vendor quote, I typed misaligned in the group and got a row of sad faces. When he cleared a Saturday for cake tastings, I typed aligned and got confetti gifts. A Pavlonian dog could not have done it better. Then came the catalyst I can't write around. The group chat roasted him in real time while he was trying to fix the cabinet hinge that squeaked. Bree posted a video of a groom in a too big suit falling on the dance floor. Caption, "Your guy if you don't let us intervene." Tasha dropped a zoomed photo of Evan's lunch, a frugal pasta with jarred sauce. The Tupperware old and stained, the way plastic stains if it's loved. This is giving youth group potluck. Lila added, "Imagine this energy at the head table." I typed, "Stop," and watched 3 dots flicker and die. I told myself they were joking. I told myself I could hold both truths. He was good, they were funny. My hands shook anyway. He stood up from the cabinet, wiped his hands on a dish towel, and said, "Do you want to be here?" I said, "Of course," and my voice sounded like a bad actress. He nodded, like he decided to believe me one more time. Then he said, "Come to the tasting with me on Saturday. His niece's bakery had offered to let us try flavors for free." I typed into the chat, "His niece's bakery wants to comp." The response is slap my hand fast. Bree, "No comps. Protect the brand." Tasha, "Family favors always backfire." Lila, "Is the niece a professional or a hobbyist?" I read the thread and said to him, "Maybe we should keep it professional?" He looked at me like I'd said I didn't like sunlight. He said, "She is a professional. She owns the shop." I said, "Let's just see other options first." He nodded, but his eyes went quiet. A week later at a wine bar, I was the last to arrive. My chair was saved, my napkin already folded. The air smelled like money and lemon oil. The girls were mid-story about Tasha's honeymoon suite. I went to the restroom to fix my lip liner so I wouldn't look like I'd been crying in traffic, which I had. 2 women were already in there, voices bouncing off tile. I recognized them before the words. Bree's polished contralto and Lila's fizzy laugh. I paused in the stall, one hand on the latch. "I only forwarded it because she needed a push," Bree was saying, the faint clink of a compact closing. "She dithers. You have to make the choice for her or she'll choose small." Lila, "Did he see?" Bree, "He reacted, that's the point." Lila, "Won't she be mad when she finds out?" Bree's answer was a smile I could hear. "She'll be grateful." My fingers went slick on the latch and I hadn't known there was anything to find out. And suddenly, God help me, I wanted to. I didn't flush. I didn't breathe. I stood in that stall, my hand on the latch, listening to Bree's voice bounce off tile like it owned the room. "I only forwarded it because she needed a push," she said, casual, like she was discussing dry shampoo. "She dithers. You have to make the choice for her or she'll choose small." Lila's laugh fizzed. "Did he see?" "He reacted. That's the point." "Won't she be mad when she finds out?" Bree's answer was a smile I could hear. "She'll be grateful." I could feel my pulse in my gums. Forwarded what? The poll? The starter husband meme? The spreadsheet? Suddenly, every joke had a sender, and my fiancé had a face on the other end of it. I waited until they left, then stared at my reflection under the bathroom lights, the kind that find every pore and name it. I told myself there was a reasonable version. She forwarded it as a cautionary tale. She thought he should know how I was being influenced. Protectiveness, not sabotage. I am very talented at building reasonable versions that keep me from burning down my life. Back at the table, Bree patted the chair next to her. "We ordered the crudo." I asked, light as air, "Did you send Evan something the other day?" It was the tone you take when you just remembered a bill, the tone that says you're not accusing, you're curious. Bree's face didn't move. "Like what?" "I don't know," I said, practicing innocence with my whole mouth. "He got something." She poured me wine she hadn't teed for. She said, "Men get things," and the table laughed like that meant anything. I stared at my glass and told myself to stay. If I left, I'd be dramatic. If I stayed, maybe I could control the story. That is a lie manipulators sell you, and sometimes you sell to yourself. After dinner, I called Evan and asked to come over. He didn't sound mad. He sounded careful, which is worse. In his kitchen, he made tea like we were elderly neighbors. He said, "I need to ask you something." He slid a mug toward me. "Has one of your friends been messaging me? Anonymously?" I felt the defensive shrug rise before my shoulders did. "You'll have to be more specific," I joked, which is a sentence that should be illegal. He didn't smile. He showed me his phone, a burner Instagram with 3 posts, quotes about choosing what reflects your value, a carousel of glossy weddings we couldn't afford, 2 DMs. She could do better. This is the standard her friends expect for her. Attached, a blurred screenshot of our group chat name and the "We can fix him" poll. My mouth made shapes. I didn't. He knows I didn't, but they did. I should have said, "I'm sorry." I should have said, "I'll shut it down." Instead, I said, "They're trying to help me not under-choose," and heard how ugly it sounded with air on it. He rubbed his forehead. "Do you hear yourself? Under-choose? Since when is choosing me a poor grade?" Not, I said too quickly. They want me to think long-term. "He installed a dimmer in your mom's kitchen," he said softly, like we had time to list receipts. "I am thinking long-term." "I know," I said, because he was right, and it didn't change the fact that I wanted my life to photograph well. He put his phone down, like setting a weight. "Mute them for a month. Not forever. Just 30 days. Plan the wedding with me. No panel, no votes." "They're my friends," I said, as if that was a legal clause. He nodded like he'd expected that paragraph. "Then make them act like it." The next morning, the group chat renamed itself Brides and Better Intervention Mode, which felt like a dare. 3 texted, "We're worried. He's isolating you." Classic. Leela sent a thread titled Coercive Control. Educational. Tasha added, "Boundaries aren't mean, babe. They're mature." I typed nothing and watched my resolve evaporate like water in a hot pan. Mini scene. They accidentally left Evan's niece off the shower list. "Vendors don't attend," Bree said when I pointed it out. "It's awkward." I said, "She's family," and Bree said, "She's family who is making cakes for free," which is optics. I thought of his niece's hands dusted with flour, the pride in her text about flavors, and chose optics. Later that day, Evan found the missing RSVP card in our junk mail pile and asked, quiet, "Is there a reason my niece wasn't invited?" My mouth went faster than my brain. "It's a small room." I lied. He nodded like he'd found the floor in the dark with his foot. Another scene. I came home to a spreadsheet open on our laptop that wasn't ours. Columns labeled align, misalign. A note at the top, shared by Bree. He clicked the link when it popped up because he thought it was a vendor doc. I scanned the rows and felt my face go hot. Under misalign, budget, aesthetic, family involvement. Under align, physical affection, values, humor. The word values made me want to throw the computer into the sink. He made a scorecard for me. He said, "They made it for me," and realized how insane that was to say out loud. He closed the laptop like a lid on a boiling pot. He said, "It feels like they're building a case." "No," I said, "they're building clarity." He laughed then, the kind that has no joy in it. "You keep taking their words and sanding them until they fit in your pocket." I started crying because it was either that or screaming. "I don't want to lose them," I said, and meant the girls more than him, which is a confession I hate writing. He looked at me for a long time and then asked, "Do you want to marry me?" The question should have been simple. The truth is that I did and I didn't, depending on the room I was in. "Can we table this?" I said, because nothing scares me like questions I can't control. He nodded, like he had expected that too. "We can't table a life," he said, but he put the discussion in a drawer because he loves me more than I deserve. 2 days later, the mid-exposure arrived wearing daylight. I was early to a tasting, not his niece's, and stopped into the florist next door to kill time. The owner was pricing peonies. I recognized Tasha's voice before I saw her, her and Bree at the back flipping through a binder. I told myself I'd say hi, let them be impressed that I was handling errands alone. Then I heard my name and went still behind a rack of eucalyptus like a coward. "We already sent him the poll," Tasha murmured. "And the slideshow," Bree said. His responses were textbook, defensive, sweet, deferential. "She'll read it as small. She always does."
Should we push the postponement angle? Tasha asked. We're past nudge. We need a rupture. She has to associate him with less. Once she feels the gap, she won't unfeel it. My mouth filled with metal. A customer asked the owner about boutonnieres. The bell over the door chimed. I stayed very, very quiet. Is it cruel? Tasha whispered. It's corrective, Bree said cleanly. We're saving her a divorce. I walked out before they could see me and sat in my car with the AC blasting, hands shaking so hard the key rattled in the ignition. It wasn't protective, it wasn't supportive, it was engineering. They were building the feeling and trusting me to translate it as a gut instinct. I texted Evan, "Can we talk tonight?" He replied, "Here." I drove like a person fleeing a brush fire. On his couch, I spilled everything. The bathroom over here, the florist over here, the binder, the word rupture that wouldn't stop echoing. They sent you that pull. On purpose. To make you react so I'd see you as small.
He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he nodded once, like a patient whose symptoms finally matched the scan. "Okay," he said. "Then here's what I need." He took up his ring, the simple band we'd picked for him at the kiosk in the mall because it made him grin like a teenager, and set it in my palm. "I will marry you. I will go to City Hall tomorrow. I will plan a backyard barbecue and call it a wedding. I will pay deposits we can't afford and figure it out later. I will do anything, except marry into a group chat. It's me and you, or it's you and them. But I cannot be a third party in my own life." The ring sat on my lifeline like a coin at the bottom of a fountain. I wanted to say yes, to be brave for once, to choose the quiet choice and let it be peace. I also wanted to text the girls and say, "He's trying to isolate me." Both wants felt true. I am not a hero in this story. I'm a person who wants two opposite things and keeps opening doors to whichever room is louder. "I need time," I said, which is the same as saying no when the clock is ticking. He closed my fingers around the ring and said, "I don't have much left." I left because leaving felt like action. In the car, I breathed into my shirt collar like they tell you to do in airplanes. At a red light, my phone lit up. "Bree, emergency Zoom?" Then, before I could answer, a calendar invite landed. Postponed decision. Tonight, 8 p.m. Guests, me, the girls, no Evan. My mother called. "Honey," she said carefully, "I'm looking at your wedding album link to download photos for Aunt Marla, and why are there only 9 pictures?" "What?" I pulled up the link. The gallery we'd been building, engagements, venue inspo, outfits, was empty rows with neat little gray boxes. 9 photos left. A bouquet, a table setting, a dress detail. Everything with Evan's face was gone. I scrolled, throat closing. At the bottom, a note. Album curated for cohesion, B. The chat pinged before I could think. "Don't freak, we're streamlining the visual narrative so vendors don't get confused. Less is more, babe." I stared at the message like it could blink first. My phone rang again. New number. The florist. "Hi," she chirped. "Bree mentioned you'd decided to put the wedding on pause. We'll release your date unless you confirm by end of day. Just calling to make sure." I didn't remember pausing anything. I didn't remember authorizing anyone to speak for me. I didn't remember deleting my fiancé's face from my own life. The red light turned green. The car behind me honked. I didn't move. Then another text slid up from the bottom of the screen, from a contact that made my stomach ice over. Evan's sister. "He's packing a bag. He says he'll be out by tonight."
Evan's sister's text sat there like a fire alarm in my lap. "He's packing a bag. He says he'll be out by tonight." My first thought wasn't noble. It wasn't stop him. It was, how does this look? I hate writing that. I grabbed my keys and drove like I could outrun the part of me that cares about optics more than oxygen. He was calm when I walked in. Too calm.
The good coat on the chair, the toolbox open, the shoe rack he made me sitting by the door like a dog that doesn't know if it's coming. He'd folded his t-shirts into tight little bricks because he's like that, even in rupture. "Don't," I said, as if that ever stopped anything. He didn't look up. I asked for one thing. "I know," I said. 30 days. "And you chose a Zoom invite," he said. "Gentle, which is somehow meaner. Your friends scheduled a meeting about our marriage like it's a Q4 roadmap. It's not about... It's just to pause." He zipped the duffel. "We're not a product to pivot." "Evan, please." The word felt small and late. He set the duffel down and came to me like you come to a skittish animal. He took my hand, turned it palm up, and placed his ring in it again. "I love you. I can't do this with your board of directors. If you ever want a life that doesn't need minutes and a moderator, you know where I am." "What does that even mean?" I was crying, which I hate. "You're asking me to lose my support system." "I'm asking you to use it like support," he said, "not scaffolding that replaces the house." "Can we talk after the Zoom?" I asked, because I wanted both doors open even as he was closing one. He studied me, and I watched him choose. "I'll be at my sister's. Don't call if you need help convincing yourself I'm small. Call if you pick us." He left the shoe rack. I sat on the floor beside it and told myself this was temporary. Postpone is not cancel. Curate is not delete. I repeat synonyms when I'm drowning. It sounds like swimming. At 7:58 p.m., my laptop lit up. Postpone decision. Tonight, 8 p.m. Bree's face appeared, lamplight making her hair look like a campaign ad. Tasha poured Sauv Blanc into a glass the size of my head. Leela had a sheet mask on, because self-care can be agenda. There were slides. Bree loves a slide. "Okay," she said, smiling like a guidance counselor. "We're here because we love you. We've identified misalignments and we're proposing a pause. Nothing dramatic, strategic." "Strategic?" I echoed, because sometimes I try words on to see if they fit. She clicked to a deck called Visual Narrative Cleanup, before-after screenshots of my wedding site. "We streamlined language to reduce sunk cost bias, removed couple content to protect your brand. Vendors respond better to clarity." "Removed what?" I sat up straight. "What content?" "The mixed message gallery. No faces. It confuses vendors." She was talking about my fiancé's face like it was a watermark to crop out. "I deleted him," I said, "from my own album." "Archived," Tasha corrected. "We didn't delete. We're not monsters." The chat exploded with, "We love you," and "Proud of you for choosing yourself." I stared at their faces, my mute icon glowing like a gag, and thought of Evan's niece and the RSVP, and how optics had suddenly become our god. "Did you contact the florist?" "They called me about releasing the date." "Of course," Bree said, as if she were telling me she'd fed my cat. "Vendors need timely updates. It's rude to hold a date you're not using." "I didn't say I'm not using it." "You will," she said, and sipped her wine. I ended the call. My mom texted again, "Why is the album empty?" Then a new email pinged from our photographer, confirming cancellation per Bree, retainer non-refundable. Per Bree. I called. It went to voicemail. I called again. Leela picked up, speaker on, laughter in the background. "Babe, you're spiraling," she said cheerfully. "Bree is saving you thousands in divorce fees." "Get out of my vendors right now." "Don't be ungrateful," she said like a prayer. "We're doing the hard part so you can breathe." After that, everything moved like a line of dominoes I had built with my own hands. The planner texted, "Heard you're pausing, so mature." My aunt called my mother crying. Evan's sister sent, "Be kind if you're the one drafting the family note." Drafting, like there was a copy desk for my life. I walked into the bedroom and opened the closet. I took down the garment bag. The dress had sleeves we fought for because Bree said structure, and I agreed. I ran my fingers over the seam and felt exactly nothing.
I wanted to text Evan, run. Instead, I opened my camera roll and started deleting. The two of us at the fountain. The two of us painting the entryway eggshell. The two of us with frosting on our noses because, yes, his niece's cake was perfect and I was a coward. The rainbow wheel spun. Photos winked out. I told myself I was making space for new. I really was, making space for nothing. Downfall symbol is a phrase I mocked in therapy worksheets. Seeing my grid go gray made me understand why they make you name a picture.
The next morning, my manager stopped by my desk. "Saw your post," she said softly. "Brave." I hadn't posted anything. I opened Instagram. Bree had put up a beige text square, the kind influencers use for wars and brand apologies. "We're pausing to prioritize alignment and healing. With love, S." She'd tagged me. I untagged and my phone buzzed immediately. Bree, "Babe, optics. Leave it up 24 hours for message hygiene." Message hygiene. I wanted to scream. Instead, I typed, "Take it down or I will block you." She replied with a screenshot of our shared wedding drive. Bree removed 243 items at 11:09 p.m. I took a late lunch and drove to the florist because noise helps. The bell chimed and the space smelled like green things. I went in ready to fire someone who didn't work for me. Bree and Tasha were there, of course. I have never been the main character of my own errands. "Babe," Bree turned like this was a meet cute. "We were about to FaceTime you. We found peonies you'll die for in September, which technically is fall, but it weeds late summer." "You told Evan's family we're postponing," I said. "We spared you," she said. "You're welcome." "You sent his niece a policy about vendors not attending showers?" "That was Tasha," Bree corrected, "and it was a template." "Stop speaking for me," I said. "Stop moving my dates, stop deleting my photos, stop calling vendors, stop drafting statements, stop fixing me." Her smile thinned. "This is you choosing small," she said. "I knew you'd flinch at the finish line." "Small is peace," I said. "Small is the right size for my life." "That's a coping mantra," she said gently, "and I love you through it." A mother with a toddler at the counter turned to look at us. "Are you guys okay?" she asked. "We're protecting her," Bree said to the mother, not me. "She's not ready to marry a roommate." The floral owner pretended to rearrange tulips. I walked out without paying for the bouquet I grabbed. Tasha yelled after me, "We're reimbursing you. Save your receipts." In the car, my hands shook so hard, my keys chimed. I drove to my mom's. She handed me tea and said, "Sweetheart, is this what friendship looks like now?" I opened my mouth to defend them, and nothing came out but an ugly sound. She said, "Call him before your committee writes your ending." I texted him. "I pick us. I'm muting them. Come home." It felt like leaping. It felt like something a brave person would do. I went into settings and slid brides and better to mute. I archived the thread. I put the Notes app speech in a folder named Trash. A minute later, my phone lit up with a calendar alert I didn't recognize. Soft launch, Sarah's Freedom Night. 7 p.m., The Harbor. Guests, the girls. Location, the same bar Evan and I picked for our rehearsal dinner. The description. No rings required. Then an email hit from the venue. "We received confirmation from your representative, Bree, to release your date. Your retainer will be applied to the new booking within your party." New booking? Within my party? I scrolled to the attachment and saw a familiar name on the invoice. Client, Lila and Marcos. Upgrade package. My stomach went cold. They weren't just burning my house. They were moving into it. I called Bree, straight to voicemail. I called Lila. "Don't be mad," she chirped. "We're just holding it. You can take it back if..." Another call pushed in. Evan's sister. I clicked over. "He's here," she said, voice tight.
He's packing the truck. If you want to talk to him, this is your moment." "I'm on my way," I said, already grabbing my bag. I flew down the stairwell and into the parking lot, the sun too bright for the day I was having. I got in the car, turned the key, and my phone vibrated with one more alert. An email from the photographer. "Your wedding gallery has been permanently deleted by collaborator, Bree." Under it, a grayed-out thumbnail where our faces used to be. And as I threw the car into reverse, another notification slid over the screen with the force of a slap. "Unknown number. If you show up at his sister's, don't make a scene. You're not the hero here."
The unknown number text sat across my screen like a hand on my throat. "If you show up at his sister's, don't make a scene. You're not the hero here." I drove anyway. I am very good at telling myself the scene is somewhere else until it's mine. Evan's sister lives on a quiet cul-de-sac where the biggest drama is whose recycling bin drifts on windy days. I parked 2 houses down and walked the rest because I didn't want to look like the kind of person who screeches to a stop in front of somebody's heartbreak. I heard voices before I saw anyone. Low, purposeful, the way people talk when they think they're in charge of a situation. I was halfway up the drive when the words resolved into names. Bree. Tasha. The universe has a dark sense of humor. "As she'll thank us later," Bree was saying, calm, counselor voice. "Short-term pain, long-term alignment." "It's not your call," Evan said, and the relief of hearing him angry almost knocked me over. He's usually steady even when people deserve worse. Tasha chimed in, fakely gentle. "We've already cleaned up the logistics, Evan. It's kinder this way. Your date is reassigned. Lila needed it." "You reassigned our venue?" Evan's sister, Maya, cut in, incredulous. "Who are you to reassign anything?" There was a shuffle, heels on concrete. I ducked behind the gnarled hedge like a raccoon. I'm not proud. The hedge smelled like dust and last summer. Bree again, unbothered. "Look, Evan, we seem kind. We like you as a person. But she needs someone who fits the life she's building, not a roommate with a ring. You were never going to survive the audit." Maya made a noise I recognized from childhood kitchens. The sound moms make when they've decided they will not be nice. "Get out of my driveway," she said. "Happy to," Bree replied, perfectly serene. "We've done the hard part for her. All she has to do now is accept it." I stepped out from the hedge because if I didn't, I was going to drown in my own spit. "Accept what?" I asked. My voice came out steady, which I resent. My body betrays me by performing composure when I want to scream. 3 heads snapped my direction. Evan's eyes landed on me, then flicked to Bree, then back. He didn't look surprised. That hurt worse than if he had. "Except that your friends are cleaning up your mess," Bree said, like she was explaining a bill. "My mess is you canceling things I never canceled and deleting pictures of a man I still love. Archiving," Tasha corrected, "and you typed postpone in your heart weeks ago. We just turned your draft into a deliverable." Maya stepped to my side in a way that felt like a hand at my back. "They told the florist you were pausing. They told the venue too." "What gave you the right?" I asked Bree. "Loyalty," she said, and smiled like she'd solved ethics. Evan cleared his throat. "Sarah, did you know they were contacting vendors?" "No," I said, then realized it was true in the way that counts legally and false in the way that counts morally. I knew enough to ask and didn't. Bree watched that calculation cross my face like she'd been waiting for it. "See," she said to him,
almost lightly, "she can't hold a boundary because she doesn't have one with you." He flinched like she'd flicked his ear. "We're done," he told them. "Leave." Bree nodded, big sister gracious. "Of course. We never wanted this to get ugly. We'll handle the announcements. You two focus on your feelings." She turned to go, then paused, like she remembered a detail on a checklist. "Oh, photographer's retainer is transferable within our group. We made sure it didn't go to waste." "Waste?" Maya repeated, deliciously unamused. "Try that word again in a sentence to my face." Tasha tugged Bree down the drive. "We'll send you the language," she called to me brightly, like she was promising banana bread. They got into a white SUV that looked like an apology and drove off, leaving perfume and gasoline. Silence folded over us. The cicadas, rude, kept singing. "I'm sorry," I said to Evan, because there wasn't a sentence that could carry how much. "I didn't know I knew, but not like..." He shook his head. "You don't have to make them soft for me," he said. I heard what I needed to hear. I swallowed. "Will you come home?" He looked at the duffel in the truck bed, then at me. The bracket of his mouth bent the way it does right before he chooses kindness over rightness. "I want to, but I don't think your home is a place I can get to right now." Maya squeezed my shoulder. "He means it," she murmured. The certainty in her tone made me want to bite something. "I muted them," I said, fast, stupidly proud. "I archived the chat." "After they deleted our life," he said. Soft. It's always the soft that kills me. "I can fix it," I said, and even I heard Bree's verb in my mouth. He lifted his chin at the hedge where I'd been crouching. "Did you record that?" he asked. "No." He nodded. "Then all you have is your word against their charm, and you know who wins that contest." The worst part is that I did. "Come to City Hall with me," I blurted. "Tomorrow. Screw the slideshow. We'll be ugly and true."
He closed his eyes for a second, then opened them. "If you wake up tomorrow and still want me more than you want them to like your pictures," he said, "call me. If you need them to bless it, don't." He got into the truck. It smelled like clean laundry and sawdust. He didn't slam the door. He left like a person who knows force isn't necessary when finality is. I watched his taillights turn at the corner and disappear. Maya hugged me the way moms do when you've scraped your knee on a choice. "You want me to follow him?" she offered. "No," I said. "I want to make them tell the truth." In the car, I opened voice memos like a talisman I'd forgot to bring to the fight. Too late. My hands shook. My inbox pinged, a calendar reminder I didn't set. Soft launch for Sarah's Freedom Night. 7 p.m., the harbor, with a location pin to our rehearsal bar. The description was a knife in beige font. No rings required. Fine, let them gather. Let them do their wine clinks and their alignment vocabulary. Let them be performatively gentle. I would bring facts. I would bring the florist overheard, the driveway confession I hadn't recorded, the emails and deleted gallery notices and the venue invoice with Leela's name where mine used to be. I would make them say, "We did this." I showered the cul-de-sac off me and put on a black dress that made me look taller. My phone buzzed with Mom's name, a prayer under glass. "Don't go alone." I texted back, "I won't." Then I didn't text anyone else. At the harbor, the patio lights flickered on even though it was still daylight, because people like feeling curated. The Freedom Night table was center stage, under the white umbrella, flower arrangements already on it like we were in a show with a budget. Bree was there, of course, hair immaculate, laughing with her teeth. Tasha waved like a pageant contestant. Bree kissed the air near my cheek and said, "You look empowered." I sat. I did not order a drink. Bree clapped once quietly for attention. "We're so proud of you. Choosing yourself is hard, but..." "Stop," I said.
I overheard you at the florist. I heard you in Maya's driveway. You sent the burner DMs to Evan. You called vendors and used my deposits for Leela. You deleted my photos. Archived, Tarsha chirped, then wilted under my stare. Bree didn't flinch. She said, "We guided you away from a preventable mistake, and you will thank us." I said, "Say it in plain language. Say, we did this because we wanted a cleaner story for ourselves than my life allowed." She smiled with all her teeth. "You're projecting." "I don't need therapy words," I said, and pulled out my phone. If I didn't have a recording, I would make one. Not of them, of me. I hit voice memos and laid the phone face up on the table. "Okay," I said, loud enough for the patio. "Let's put it on the record." Chairs creaked. The table next to us went quiet in that curious, embarrassed way strangers go quiet when the play gets good. Bree leaned in, unbothered. She said, "Records can be edited. We are excellent editors." My phone buzzed. A new notification slid across the top. "Photographer, new gallery shared." My breath hitched. I opened it. The link loaded into a grid of sunlit images at our venue. No, at my former venue. Leela in a white dress that wasn't a wedding gown but wanted to be, Marcos in linen, the champagne tower we'd pinned, the poses we'd practiced, the arch I'd picked, the file name at the top, L&M celebration shoot, reclaimed date. In the middle of the grid, a candid. Bree, off to the side, head tilted toward Tasha, both of them laughing, and in Bree's hand, unmistakable, even blurred, the beige text pause square she'd posted for me, open on her phone like a trophy. My throat got hot. I said, "You took my date. You took my pictures." Bree's face did something new, something small and naked and fast, then smoothed. She said, "We optimized." I lifted my phone, thumb hovering over share. My mom texted, "Where are you?" The florist texted, "If you need a witness, I'm here." Maya texted a heart. Evan didn't text. Bree said quietly, eyes on my phone, "Careful. If you blow this up, you don't get us back. There's no rebrand after a public tantrum. Choose the smart path." I stared at the screen, at my life repopulated with someone else's joy, at the beige square held like a champagne flute in Bree's hand. My thumb trembled. The air tasted like lemon oil and a dare. And then, from behind me, a voice I recognized and wasn't ready for said, "Before you post anything, you probably should hear what we meant to tell you tonight."
The voice behind me was smooth as a contract. "Before you post anything, you should probably hear what we meant to tell you tonight." I turned. Janelle, the planner, stood there in linen and consequence, a tote bag on her shoulder and a folder hugged to her chest like it might bolt. Behind her, the florist owner from earlier hovered, palms pressed together in apology. The harbor's patio lights chimed on even though the sun was still out, and for a second, the whole place looked staged, like my life had a lighting designer. Bree didn't flinch. Of course she didn't. "Janelle," she said, warm. "Perfect timing. We were just about to soft launch your friend's breakup using her retainer," Janelle said, not warm. She set the folder on the table between my water glass and a bouquet that matched our deleted mood board. "I'm here because I don't move deposits without signatures, and I don't let my name get stapled to a story I didn't write." Tasha smiled at a little glitch. "There's a misunderstanding." Janelle opened the folder. The first page was our contract, my name and Evan's, our date circled in pink from the day I was giddy enough to color it in. The next page was an email. Subject line, "Postpone on behalf of client, Sarah. Proceed with reassignment. From Bree. CC, everyone but me." The language was beige and benevolent. "In light of alignment concerns, we'll pause. Please release the date to our party to prevent loss. We'll handle messaging for Sarah to reduce emotional load." "Our party," Janelle read aloud, vague enough to be useful, specific enough to be rude. Bree tucked hair behind her ear, serene. We're in relationship with this venue. We simply are not my client. She is. She looked at me. Do you consent to anything they moved, said, deleted, or reassigned? My throat worked. No. Bree's laugh was soft, pitying. She's emotional. So am I, the florist said brightly, stepping in. Hi, I met you earlier near the eucalyptus where you hid. I'm Gemma. I posted the Freedom Night centerpiece to my stories and tagged the venue and got 6 DMs, 3 of which referenced a beige breakup square and one that called you a visionary, Bree. Just facts. Great, Bree said, unbothered. We're all on the same page. We're not, I said, and was startled by the steel in my voice. You touched my money, my date, my album, my story. You did it because you wanted it neat. I held up my phone and showed the L&M gallery notice again, the one labeled reclaimed date. Lila stared at it like maybe if she didn't blink, it would blur. Say the quiet part. Say why this mattered so much. Because we love you, Tasha said on cue, then faltered when I didn't swallow. Because we didn't want you to shrink. Shrinking is relaxing. Try it. Bree leaned forward, forearms on the table, voice dipping into that guidance counselor register she weaponizes. You're in freefall. We built you a net. You don't have to understand the weave to be grateful. The table behind us went quiet for the second time. I could feel strangers' eyes like heat lamps. Janelle slid another page from the folder. There's more. A brand deck. She flicked to a slide titled Freedom Night Content Pillars with bullet points. Choosing yourself, reclaiming venues, friendship as the true bridesmaid. At the bottom, deliverables, 3 reels, 1 static post, 1 carousel. On the next slide, in small print, the part that vacuumed air. Paid usage rights, 3 months. You monetized my ending, I said. We collaborated, Tasha chirped. You stole. Me and Janelle said at the same time. Gemma nodded like it was choreography. Bree didn't blink. She said, we gave you a runway and a soft landing. By torching the plane midair, Janelle said. I get paid either way. I'm here because I wouldn't sleep if I didn't try to stop you from making this worse. I put my phone face up on the table and tapped voice memos. A red bar slid across the screen. Okay, I said, throat raw. Let's do this out loud. No beige. Lila shifted, eyes shiny. Sarah, don't be cruel. Cruel is sending burner messages to my fiancé about standards while you borrow my deposit. Cruel is deleting my pictures so vendors don't get confused. Cruel is making an RSVP policy to keep his niece out of the shower because optics. Lila ducked her head. That was Tasha. It was a template. Of what? I asked. Being human without witnesses? Bree's gaze sharpened. You need to be careful. If you go scorched earth, there's no coming back into this group. And you need this group. The awful part was that yesterday, that sentence would have held. Today, it landed like a dare. Do I? I said. Her smile didn't touch her eyes. You're not her without us. My mother disagrees, I said, and almost cried at how 12 that sounded. Like I had summoned her, my phone lit up. Mom, where are you? I'm outside. I looked up. She was at the patio gate waving that tight mom wave used at school concerts and custody exchanges. Maya, Evan's sister, was with her, a little out of breath, Gemma's apron strings trailing behind. The cavalry, except the horses, were tired women in flats.
They came straight to the table. Mom put her hand on my shoulder and pressed, the way mothers press when they're saying, "No more, kid." Maya planted herself like a bouncer between me and the group. I have no skin in your Instagram, she told Bree, but if one more vendor says they heard anything from anyone but Sarah, I will learn litigation. File away, Bree said. and for the first time, she looked fatigued. We did what had to be done.
Who decided that? Mom asked, and why not her?
Because she dithers, Bree and Tasha said together, then glanced at each other, embarrassed by the synchronized sound of their script. And because, Lila began, then swallowed the rest. I filed that aside. Because what? Gemma cleared her throat. Since we're outing overherds, she said, I have one. Earlier today in my shop, you, she pointed at Bree, said, we need to create a rupture so she doesn't unfeel the gap. I wrote it down because it sounded like you were selling dishwashers. Bree lifted her chin. Fine. We created momentum. She needed a push. You needed my deposits, I said. Say that part slowly. Janelle's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and slid it my way. An email forwarded, RE, press angle for Freedom Night, confirmation. The brand rep's line in highlighted yellow, we love that friendship triumphs over an unaesthetic man. Something in me snapped into focus. It wasn't about protecting me. It wasn't about standards. It was about the photo, the picture of a life that performs well. I had tried to become a woman they could tag. They had turned me into content. Here's the actual ask, Bree said suddenly, almost kindly. Let us handle the statement. We'll phrase it so you look empowered. No one needs to know it was messy. You get to be aspirational. We get to keep the party intact. Everyone wins. And Evan? Maya asked. Where does he fit in your party? Bree hesitated. He doesn't. So say it. Say you did this because he doesn't look good on your grid. Bree met my eyes. Something moved there. Fatigue, maybe. Or the first chink in a very polished armor. Say it how you want, she murmured. But yes, he isn't our caliber. Tasha touched her arm. Bree! What? She wants plain language, Bree snapped, then smoothed herself back down. She looked at me, then at the gallery on my phone, then at the umbrella lights, then back to me. When she spoke, it was quiet and knife clean. Okay, she said. Plain. We didn't do this because we're protective. We did it because... She glanced at Tasha. Tasha gave the smallest resigned nod, like she wanted to get it over with. Because we were jealous.
Bree set the paper grocery bag on the City Hall counter like she was returning a library book. Lila clutched the garment bag to her chest. Tasha hovered, flushed, breathing too fast. He's not coming, Bree said, eyes holding mine. Then, quieter, the part that scraped. And God, I hate this. Neither are we. For a second, I thought she meant they were boycotting my wedding. That wasn't. Then I saw what was in the bag. My bride silk robe, the fake ring sizer we passed around as a joke, the vellum menus we'd mocked up, a bundle of peony swatches clipped together with a gold binder clip. Returns? Friendship, boxed and wrinkled. Why are you here? I asked. It came out steadier than I felt. To stop you from doing the thing you'll blame us for, Bree said, and to bring these back. We are recalibrating our involvement. Recalibrating means leaving, Tasha blurted, then bit her lip like she wished she could stuff the word back in. Lila's eyes were raw. She said to Marcos we should wait, and she broke off. I'm sorry. Bree shot her a look that said, discipline later. She said to me, we admitted our part. Jealousy, optics, the whole ugly list. You were right to push back. But chaos isn't a fix either, so we step out. We're done being the net.
I never asked you to be a net, I said, and hated how childish it sounded. You never had to, Bree said. You fell into us like gravity. The clerk behind the glass cleared her throat. Ma'am, do you still want the form? The couples on the bench were politely pretending not to watch. My phone lay face down by the pen, like a sleeping animal. Are you here to apologize or to brand manage this in person? Bree exhaled. For once, there was no champagne bubble in it. Both, she said. We did harm. We also know how fast a mess metastasizes online. If you post what you were going to post, it becomes content. That's a second wound. Don't let us be the headline of your life, even now. Then stop writing the captions, I snapped. Stop emailing vendors. Stop speaking for me. We have, she said. Janelle's sending reversals. Gemma's holding the flowers. The venue won't apply your retainer to Lila's balance. The gallery can't be restored. She didn't flinch when she said it, but her fingers tightened on the bag. Deleted wedding photos? The phrase landed like a diagnosis. Why did you delete them? Really? Because you were going to change your mind if you kept seeing his face, Bree said. And because it hurt to look at a life that moved without us. Lila made a small noise. Tasha stared at the floor. I wanted to be righteous. I wanted to say, that's monstrous. I also wanted to confess I had started deleting him first. Private album, archived grid. We'd all put our hands on the knife. And Evan? I forced out. Did you talk to him? Is that why he's not here? She sent me the voice note. Before you did. She asked me not to show you. I'm telling you that so you know he's trying not to make this worse. So you are still in it, even while you're leaving. Bree's mouth twitched. We are very bad at quitting. Consider this a stumble toward it. The clerk tried again. Ma'am? I turned, looked through the glass at the neat stack of forms, the little bowl of pens on chains, the faint citrus smell of floor cleaner. Somewhere, a couple cheered softly. The yes that would have been mine evaporated like breath on a mirror.
I pushed the form back. Not today, I said. Maybe not ever. The words made me lightheaded, not from sadness, but from the sudden quiet. No polls, no decks, no soft launches, just silence. Scary as a cliff, clean as a cut. Outside, the morning looked too bright for how my chest felt. Mom was waiting under the sycamore, wringing her hands. Maya stood with her, eyes scanning my face like she was checking for fractures. When they saw the empty ring box in my palm, they both nodded the way women nod when an outcome hurts, and is also correct. Bree followed me out. We're done, she said, stopping a good 6 feet away like she finally learned distance. No more emails, no more proxies, no more group chat. We'll remove you and we won't spin it. She swallowed. If anyone asks, we'll say we lost you. Say you let me go, I said. You didn't lose me. She nodded. We let you go. Tasha held out the garment bag like a peace offering. We got the sleeves right, she said, voice wobbling. If you want them. I took the bag because not taking it felt like a different kind of performance. I don't know what I want. Maybe that's the point. Lila hugged herself. For what it's worth, she whispered, your yes came easy. Mine has a payment plan. Bree shot her another look. Lila didn't flinch this time. Goodbye, I said. It wasn't dramatic. It was small and ordinary, the way most endings are when you're not scoring them. They left. No hug, no promises, no calendar invite to process it later, just heels on concrete and a door opening and closing like punctuation. I sat on the low wall and stared at the ring box. Mom sat beside me, bumping my shoulder like we were kids again, and she was trying to make me laugh during church.
Maya stood guard like I was a VIP at my own sadness. "You okay?" Mom asked. "No," I said, "but it's quiet." "Quiet is a start," Maya said. We went to my place because people need walls when they're telling the truth. The apartment smelled like absence, the way a room does when it's been emptied of a future. I put the garment bag on the chair, set the grocery sack on the counter, and looked around like a tourist in a city I used to live in. There were practical things to do. Call Janelle, call the venue, text Gemma, thank you, tell my aunt, unfollow a dozen accounts that speak beige. I did them in a row, hands moving faster than my head. Then I opened my camera and pointed it at nothing. The grid pulsed up with its empty squares and tried to serve me memories. It offered a gray rectangle. I laughed, a bark that turned into something wet. Mom turned on the kettle. Maya took out the trash. We all performed competence until the room stopped spinning. When they left, I didn't turn on music. I sat on the floor and let the quiet do what it does. Expand until it touches everything. My phone buzzed. For a second, I hoped it was Evan, then hated myself for hoping. It was Janelle. "Reversals initiated, vendor notes updated, your account is secure." Then Gemma. "I'm dropping peonies at your door, no charge. You don't ever owe me content." Then a number I didn't recognize. Photographer. Pulled a backup of selects, not the full set. Enough to prove your love existed. Link expires in 24 hours. My throat closed. Proof. Not for the internet, for me. I clicked. The grid loaded slow, like a heart remembering. His hand on my cheek in bad winter light. My laugh ugly and real. His nieces frosting on my nose. The shoe rack half assembled. And the look on his face that said, "This is enough." I saved them to a private folder called Quiet. I didn't post. I didn't send. I made a list called 90 Days. It had 3 lines. No brie, no proxies, no beige. Call mom before the internet. Learn how to want things that don't look good on a grid. I put the ring box in the top drawer under the batteries, where I hid things I didn't trust myself with. I wrote a note on a sticky and stuck it to the fridge. You don't need a committee. I put one on the mirror. Choose small. Let it be peace. At dusk, the light turned soft and the apartment looked kind again. My phone buzzed. Evan. Not a voice note, text. I saw your not today. Proud of you for picking a sentence that belongs to you. I'm going to be off my phone for a while. If, after you're quiet, you still want the life that doesn't need minutes and a moderator, you know where to find me. If you build a different one and it's good, I'll be relieved. I typed 1,000 things. I deleted 1,001. I sent, I'm sorry, not for choosing you wrong, for choosing a room over a person. I'm going to be quiet now. If there's a later, it will be because I earned it, not because I posted it. He didn't reply. I didn't expect him to. I made tea and poured it into the mug we'd argued about because it had a chip, and he said, "Chips make things ours." I sat on the rug and let the steam wet my face. The doorbell rang. It startled me enough that I sloshed tea on my knee. I checked the peephole. No one. My stomach dropped in the old way, expecting some new beige note or a box of branded apologies. No note, no bag, just an envelope, on the mat, heavy, cream, my name handwritten in Bree's perfect block letters. My hands shook in that traitorous way again. I opened it carefully because anything that clean wants you to tear it. Inside, a single photo, one of the recovered selects, printed on thick paper, I didn't pay for, me and Evan in the park at golden hour, his head tipped toward mine, both of us laughing at something that doesn't matter anymore. And behind it, on a separate card, 10 lines in Bree's handwriting, small and unadorned. We were jealous. We were cruel. We used standards because jealousy isn't persuasive. We told each other you'd think us because the truth sounded worse. We won't contact you again. We unbooked Lila's date. We returned the retainer. We told the brand no. We archived the chat. Permanently. If you ever forgive us, don't tell us in a DM. Make your life so boring you forget we existed. There was one more thing in the envelope. A USB drive, labeled Gallery Selects in Breeze block letters, and a sticky note. I found more in the photographer's trash. Don't post them. Keep them. Proof is not content. I sat on the floor with the photo and the note and the stupid little drive and tried to understand a sentence like, "They were jealous," next to a sentence like, "They did one last right thing." I tried to remember that people can be both the wound and the bandage, and you don't owe the bandage your blood. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "We never wanted him," the message said. "We wanted to be you." I didn't respond. I blocked the number. I put the USB in the drawer with the ring. I washed the cup with the chip and left it on the rack to dry. The apartment hummed. The fridge clicked. Somewhere a neighbor laughed. The quiet didn't fix me. It just didn't ask me to perform. I turned off the lights, and the room didn't look empty anymore. It looked available. Then, as if the universe wanted one last vote, a banner slid down my screen from a name I'd muted hours ago, but hadn't blocked because I am sentimental and stupid. Bree, muted. Last thing, in 90 days, if you try to come back, we won't be here. Don't mistake that for punishment. It's the only apology I trust myself to offer. I stared at the message until it disappeared into the top of the phone like it was leaving. My doorbell rang a second time. 2 quick taps, familiar. I went to the peephole. This time there was someone there. Evan's sister, Maya. Face serious, kind. Behind her shoulder, down the hall, a silhouette I knew too well. Broad shoulders, good coat. He was turned away like he hadn't decided whether to knock. Maya lifted a hand, hesitant, asking without asking. I put my palm flat on the door, feeling the solid weight of wood and choices, and I had to decide, in the quiet I asked for, which door to open.